Leading into my college graduation, I had just directed and produced my first documentary film. It was on trust as it is expressed between visually impaired skiers and their able-sighted guides. You see, visually impaired skiers ski down slopes at 60, 70 miles an hour and have guides in front of them. And so they can't touch. They're about 6 feet apart. And these guides are communicating with them via Bluetooth headsets. Turn left, turn right. There's rocks coming up, essentially, stuff like that. And I'll share the link up at the top here. But, it was a really good experience. And it took me to Colorado with a team that consisted of friends. And when I was in Colorado, I made meaningful and lasting friendships. And the film itself came out awesome. It really set the tone of what my potential could do, or it could look like, and it drove my confidence through the roof. And so the film also gained plenty of traction locally and with other interested sport organizations. And so with my film going well, the radio show I had that I was hosting and created was going well, and in the final weeks of the final semester, I applied for what I, at the time, believed was my dream gig. So it was an assistantship, basically a PR job in Colorado, decent pay, insurance, and thousands of people applied. And I knew thousands have applied, so I studied up. I read all that I could for this assistantship, and I got my way to the final round of the hiring process. This was a 3-step process, 2 interviews, and then you had to do a paper, like an article, to simulate a press release. And so I was feeling pretty good about it. I had a connection, and I thought that was my way in. So after I did the final the stage of the hiring process, I waited, as we all do, to hear that final decision. And I waited. Seconds turned into minutes. Minutes turned into hours. Hours turned into weeks. Weeks turned into the realization that I had to follow up. And so I followed it up with my contact. And she called me out of the blue and apologized and said, "Ryan, you didn't get the position." And so that was my dream gig, too. Writing a high level of confidence, through the roof confidence level. And so after that, I immediately jumped into a job search. So this was applying for dozens and dozens of gigs for the next couple months and hearing nothing. Radio silence. No interviews, no thank you for applying, nothing. And eventually, I got a job with the Big Ten Network. And I was a researcher and producer. And so I worked alongside producers who now have 8 Emmys. I had 0 Emmys, which was fine. But the reality is, in 2018, around 70% of the population experienced, some form of imposter syndrome at any time in their lives. So imposter syndrome is essentially this idea that you'll be revealed and you'll be deemed a fake. You won't be good enough, and you'll be found that you're not good. And so, you can think that once you get in once you get a job or you get into school, that you envision yourself immediately winning those Pulitzer Prizes, riding in those Lamborghinis, making millions. But when reality sets in, that doesn't happen. So I entered into a position with multi-Emmy winning producers, yet I had no symptoms of imposter syndrome. I didn't doubt that I could do this job, and I totally believed in myself. When I came into the Big Ten Network, I was certainly welcomed to wide eyes of realizing, whoa, I have a lot to learn. This one film I did was nice, but there is plenty more to explore. It was this realization of what I didn't know. And so I tried to be honest with where I was. I knew I was not going to produce a 23-minute film right off the bat. And so what I did was I learned as much as I could, as quickly as I could. So I was asking tons of questions. I was watching films, the films that my producers put together, and I was studying them. I was reading everything. I was taking notes, and I was doing all that I could to get to where I wanted to be. And all in all, I put together, I think it was 12 different versions of the film that I will link up there, and we finally stuck on the one that we all liked. But again, I didn't doubt that I could do it. I knew that I could do it, and I knew that I would get to where I wanted to be just by my pure learning, because I knew I was committed. And so if you're having problems with imposter syndrome, that's okay. But just realize that you applied for the gig you're in now. That's a job you created or one that you got hired for because you knew you could do it. Why apply if you didn't think you could do it? Be honest about where you are, think about where you want to go, and then fill in those gaps. You see, to start off this year, I started 2 businesses. And I am realizing, of course, where I'm at. And I'm realizing where I want to be. So I'm filling in those gaps. I'm reading as much as I can. So here are 3 books, one on business, one on writing film treatments, and oh yes, one on real estate investing, which I do as well. So I'm learning as much as I can. I'm meeting people. I'm finding mentors. And a couple days ago, I had, I think it was $120,000 that flashed before my eyes. That's more than I have ever seen in front of me, yet it all appeared practically within 30 minutes. And so, if you want something, you must believe deeply and firmly that it's yours. All you have to do is go after it.